Yep. Yep. That's right. It's Monday. And yes, it's going to be an amazing week. I'm really excited about this week. I don't know what it is, man. There's something about having a fresh start to the week, being able to throw what happened last week away, and just preparing for what God is going to do this week. And I know even as I make that statement, some of us are kind of like, well, how could it be a great week every week? And I get you. I understand. But maybe I could paint a better picture for you. This week, I want to kind of start with this story that I heard about a business owner. This guy was essentially attempting to hire employees. He had finally gotten this seed money, and he had gone from doing this operation in his house and doing it in his garage to now officially having his own office. And he was getting ready to do the next phase of his business. And so now he's getting ready to hire employees. And so he goes out on the hiring trail. He goes out trying to find employees, and he starts getting these resumes in. And he's getting very, very excited because the people in these resumes are fitting the description of what's needed so well. And so he would have these interviews, and of course they passed the interview, and then he would hire them. And somewhere within that 90-day period, he would end up giving them a task based upon what they said they could do. And he wasn't doing it as a test. He was just doing it because they said on their resume they could do this. And he quickly found out that they couldn't do it. And it wasn't just one or two people that he hired. It seemed like it was happening over and over and over, that now, no matter how well they did in the interview and no matter how good their resume was, at some point within the first 3 or 4 months, they were going to be given a task that they could not execute, even though everything on their resume said that they could. And so after about the first year, he got tired of hiring people and letting people go based upon their lack of skill set. And one day, the hiring manager he had came through and came into the office and said, hey man, I have a candidate that I really think we should check out. And of course, this business owner is like, there's no possible way, we shouldn't do it. Look at how many people have lied before. I don't care how good it is. And the hiring manager leaves this resume on the owner's desk, and the owner really didn't look at it until one day he was going back in his office, and he goes, okay, I'm just going to check it out. And he goes to check it out, and everybody else's resume had been like 1 or 2 pages. This dude's resume was like 32, 33 pages. Literally, it was like the longest resume ever. And that was like the first clue for the owner. Absolutely not. There's no way. How can somebody have this much experience and then be looking for a job? Either they keep quitting their jobs, getting fired from their jobs, or they're lying about the jobs that they have. There's no way that this dude could be that good. So he goes and tells the hiring manager, he goes, listen, man, I'm looking at this resume, all these pages, there's no possible way we should be doing this. Absolutely not. And this is what the hiring manager said that really tipped the scales in this story. He goes, I hear what you're saying, and it does look scary, but let's just imagine if everything in this resume is true and we don't hire him, we'll feel like the biggest fools in the business industry. And he goes, what could it hurt to try again? So the business owner takes him up on that bet and goes, okay, all right, let's go for it. Let's hire him. And he gives this ultimatum. He goes, but if he doesn't work out, it's going to be on you. So they call the guy in, does the interview, gets the job. And the business owner is already thrown off by the size of the resume and really just thrown off by the trauma he's had from previous candidates. So what ends up happening is, instead of waiting until this random task comes up and exposes this guy, he goes, I'm going to expose him early. So in the first couple of weeks, he goes straight to this guy. He gives him a task, and he's waiting for the dude to fail, and the dude kills it. I mean, he absolutely kills it. The business owner goes, well, a dead clock is right 2 times a day, and proceeds to give him another task that he feels like is going to cause this dude to expose himself as a fraud. And do you know that this dude killed it again? As time progressed, one day the business owner's going down the office, and he sees the dude in somebody else's office, and there's like 3 or 4 people in the office. And he stops in there trying to figure out what is going on. And as it turns out, this guy was doing like IT work on the person's computer. They couldn't figure out how to do something. And this dude was doing IT work. And had nothing to do with his job position, but he was helping out. And so the owner goes back into his office and begins to look at the resume. And do you know that this dude had IT experience? And it seemed like that same scenario happened over and over and over and over again. That randomly he would see him doing things, or he'd be assigned a task, and not only would he kill it, but it would expose that there was another part of that resume that the owner didn't even bother to look at. But when he went back and looked at it, it totally validated what he saw in the office, that this guy was the real deal. It got so good to the business owner that eventually he started just giving the guy tasks, regardless of what the job description said, and just told the guy, just do it. And he didn't even go back to check to see if the guy did it, because he had earned the resume himself. He didn't even have to look at the guy's resume anymore. He was watching the experience in real time. That dude ended up being the star of the company and soon took over the company for the business owner. And one of the questions that the hiring manager asked that really got me in the story, he said, imagine had we never given this guy a chance, how different it would have been for a brand new company. I think that story resonates not only with me, but with what I think God wants to say with us this week. Something that we should really be focusing on is that I think for a lot of us, we have had people that we've relied on and trusted in. And not just willy-nilly, not just out of the goodness of our heart, people that we've trusted and we've known, and they told us that they could do things, and they told us that they would cover us, or they told us they'd be there for us, or they told us that they would provide for us, or they told us they would have our back. And as time progressed, we found out that when the assignment came, when the crisis came, when the trouble came, when the issues came, they actually could not do what they said they could do on their resume. And it almost built up this distrust that anytime somebody comes in and they say they can do something for us, or there's this issue of trust, or this issue of being able to work with somebody, or partner with somebody, or grow with somebody, we always have this thing in the back of our head that we're waiting for them to be exposed as frauds. It's given many of us trust issues. In fact, I think for some of you, even on this Monday morning, you're getting up, getting ready to start your day, and you've already calculated how you're going to control every part of your day. That you have mastered control over your life, and you don't need anybody else, and you don't want anybody else in your life. If you do, you want them at a distance because you want to have your hands on the steering wheel. And I'm just here to tell you, is it possible that desire to control, that desire to make everything happen the way you want it to happen, has nothing to do with your skill set, has nothing to do even with what you're called to do, but has everything to do with the traumatization of previous failures of people in your life. And to be honest with you, I think it's okay to say yes to that. I think it's okay to acknowledge and be self-aware that yes, I have trust issues and people in my past have caused them. Here's the issue. If you fool with fake long enough, the authentic will no longer be real to you. It will always be a dream. That if you date enough bad people, that when the real deal comes, the real spouse, the real wife, the real husband comes, we can never fully trust it because it's too good to be true. And that's trauma talking. That when you get an offer to go to a college or to accept a position at a job or to do all these things, you're so afraid of failure, that you're so afraid of the past showing back up in your present and ruining your future, that you just back up off of it altogether. Because the unknown is the one place you don't have control. The unknown is the place where you don't have directions, you don't know what to do, you don't know how to handle it. I think the best part of that story was about that guy and his resume. Everything triggered that owner based upon that resume. There's no way somebody's resume could be that long and that good. I want to encourage you. This is for people who are struggling with control. God's resume is longer than any other applicant of trust in your life. I mean, he has a whole book dedicated to his resume. And what's crazy is that he has been true and faithful in every single scenario. There's never been a predicament, a crisis, a situation, or an assignment that's been given to him that he could not master, he could not control, and he could not defeat. He is the undisputed champion. And I know the enemy has gotten your brain so fixed on all the previous failures from people and even yourself that when you see this resume laid before you of a God who rescues people from oppression, of a God who can literally call people out of the grave, that can cause people to be healed, that can give sight back to the blind, that can give hearing back to the deaf, that can give mobility back to the person who has lost all activity of limb. And you think of that and you go, yeah, but what's the catch? Or I have to earn this, or this is too good to be true. I'm here to tell you, this is the week where you can literally release control. Man, I just don't know what your future looks like if you keep holding on to your present the way you are. I mean, let's play this out. If you literally control everything, how far do you think you can go carrying that kind of burden? Year after year, carrying more weight. Year after year, carrying more doubt, carrying more trauma. How long can you go on like that? How long can you keep the business going without trusting your star employee? Here's what's even better about that even though that dude came in as an employee, the truth was he was always built to be the owner of the company, and the dude just didn't recognize it. That guy was built custom made to do all the work, and really that owner could have sat back and just reaped the benefits while he trusted in this guy. I'm gonna be honest, Jesus didn't come into our lives to serve us. He's always been the owner. It just takes time for us to trust him enough to hand over our business to him. That's what I want to encourage you to do this week. Take whatever business you have today, whatever you are thinking about doing, and hand it over to him. Week after week, you've placed your own plans in your hand. This week, let's see what happens when we trust a man with an unblemished resume. My boy Daryl, man, he told this story some years ago, and I heard it. He said it on a record, and it has stuck with me ever since. And it deals with Isaiah 6. And if you haven't read that scripture, I encourage you to go read it. But it's this prophet Isaiah, and he goes, "In the year the king Uzziah died, I saw the Lord high and lifted up." It's this vision that the prophet sees of God lifted up in heaven. And he uses this phrase. He says, "And his train filled the temple." Now, for those who don't know, trains were considered the back end of the robe. Many of you who've been married, you understand what a wedding train is. Well, kings had these with their robes. And there's something that Daryl said that has stuck with me, and I think it fits in this story perfectly. That train, that robe, and the train on that robe, it didn't come simply because somebody just decided to design it that way. That, in fact, what happened was, in this imagery, in that time of Isaiah, kings, when they would go and conquer other kings and kingdoms, they would literally take the robe of the king that they defeated and add it onto their robe. So that when you walked into the throne room to make a request of the king, that when you saw the length of his robe, it showed how trustworthy he really is. So when you think about God's robe filling an entire temple, and we ain't talking about a kitchen or a living room, we're talking about a literal temple, and God's train fills it. That means that when you walk into his presence, you're not talking to somebody who fails. You're not talking to somebody who gets defeated. You're not talking to somebody who succumbs to depression. You're not talking to somebody who can't heal cancer. You're not talking to somebody who can't fix hearts and mend minds. You're not talking to that. You're talking to somebody who literally has a resume that's visual. My prayer for you is that you see the Lord not just high and lifted up, but that somewhere in your day and in your week, and hey, even the rest of this month, you get a glimpse of that train, because that train is his resume. And I promise you, if you give it enough time, you'll be able to see how much God can do. And prayerfully, you'll be like that owner one day. And whatever assignment you just throw at him, you can walk away and know that God's got it. See the train, trust the Lord, let it go. See the train, trust the Lord, This week is going to be an incredible week. And not because all of our plans are going to come to fruition the way we think they are. And not because we won't have troubles or struggles. No. It's going to be an amazing week because this week we're going to see the train of a king who has defeated all, including death. This is going to be a fantastic week. I'm so excited, man. Do yourself a favor. Go out and let's make it a good one.